Hello, and welcome back to the studio. I'm Dr. Wiggo, and today we're going to talk about all the stuff that Apple announced at WWDC on June 9th. Well, not everything, because we don't have that kind of time. There were a lot of announcements. And to make it easier for you to follow along, especially if you actually watch the thing, let me tell you the order I'm going to do things in. First, I'm going to tell a story, because I always tell a story. This story is going to be about my first visit to a developers conference at Apple back in 1987, where I met Bill Atkinson for the first time. And it's going to kind of serve as a tribute to Bill Atkinson. I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that he did. He was one of the original creators of the Macintosh back in the day, and he did a whole lot of stuff. We'll talk about that first. So if you don't care about that, you can skip over that. Then we're going to talk about the whole liquid glass and the unified design and numbering and all that Apple announced on Monday. Then iOS 26, WatchOS 26, tvOS 26, macOS 26 Tahoe, it still gets a name, visionOS 26, iPadOS 26, and then my take. I'll put the timestamp somewhere around here so you can skip ahead. There'll also be chapter stops. So if you're just interested like in the tvOS, which I really don't have a lot to say about because they didn't announce much, you can skip to the part you're interested in. If you watch the whole keynote from Apple, well, then you can skip over all of that stuff and just get to my take, which will be the last thing in the video, where I'll talk about what I thought about all that stuff. To start with my story, I moved to California in 1987. I've mentioned this in other videos. When I was working for Mac User Magazine, because the magazine moved from New York to California, and I just kind of went along for the ride. And one of the first things I did when I got there was I went to Apple's Spring Developers Conference in 1987. In fact, look, I have a lovely souvenir. The 1987 Spring Developers Conference. It was a glass they gave us at a cocktail party sometime during the event. I've saved it all these years. By the way, it was at this event, I think actually this event where we got the glasses, where I first met Bill Atkinson. Now, if you don't know who Bill Atkinson was, you're probably very young, but he was employee number 51 at Apple. So he was way early on. He worked on the Lisa, but most significantly for us, he worked on the Macintosh. He invented Quick Draw, which is the whole system for the bitmap graphics and everything. And he wrote the Mac Paint app, which was the demonstration of all the cool things it could do. He was a genius, certifiable genius, and the nicest guy in the world. We never got to be good friends, but we were more than acquaintances. We got to spend some time together. I got to be good friends with Andy Hertzfeld, who was also one of the founders of the Macintosh and worked on all the system software and everything. At the time of this developers conference, Bill was working on HyperCard, which was one of the first hypertext kind of database things, predated the hypertext on the World Wide Web. It was amazing, and I mean, people wrote entire databases in it. It was an amazing piece of work. And all sprang out of this man's head. And like I said, I got to know Bill, not really well, but fairly well. Again, I was good friends with Andy Hertzfeld, and they were friends, so I think Bill only liked me because Andy liked me. I'll take it. In fact, Andy and Bill, after I left California to go back to grad school, they formed another company called General Magic. Andy had left Apple and gone to Radius, and by 1990, he and Bill got together and formed General Magic, which you probably never heard of, but they were inventing cool new things. That's what they did back in the day. I knew Bill personally. He was a great guy. By the way, Andy was a better guy. Andy was like the nicest guy in the world. If you ever meet Andy Hertzfeld, just count your blessings because he is such a sweet, sweet man. We spent a lot of time together. We used to hang out. Andy worked at Google in the 2010s. He worked on the Circles thing. And he met my nephew, and he said to my nephew, he said, "Wait a minute, your last name, are you any relation to Robert?" And he goes, "Well, that's my uncle." And so I know Andy remembered me many years later. I'm not the type that keeps in touch. People have to keep in touch with me. Most of them don't. You probably know why. I just wanted to make a little tribute to Bill Atkinson because he was one of the creators of the Macintosh. It wouldn't exist without him or Andy. They were visionaries and fantastic software engineers. In fact, I think Andy's title was software wizard. I'm not sure what Bill's title was on his card. But Bill Atkinson was a great, great man, and he was only a couple of years older than I am, and he died the week before WWDC, and it was very sad. Well, let's talk about WWDC. The first thing, the big thing, for the first time, Apple is going with a unified design across all of their operating systems. They're all going to look the same or similar. And the numbering, they're renumbering them all to 26 because they're going to come out in the fall towards the end of the year, so they will be primarily used during the year 2026. But this unified design is just stunning. They call it liquid glass, and like all the icons and all the controls and pop-up menus and overlays are all in this liquid glass, inspired by the Vision Pro. Thank God they didn't go with the round icons like the Vision Pro, but that kind of separates the Vision Pro. When you see a round icon, you know you're in a Vision Pro. But the liquid glass looks just phenomenally gorgeous. The first thing they introduced was iOS 26. And they dove in right away because the new home screen on iOS 26 uses the liquid glass effects, and so it has a scaling clock that will adapt to the photos underneath it. So if the photo is much taller, it'll make the clock smaller. If there's a lot of space above the photo, it'll make it bigger. And they have spatial photos with a 3D effect. So as you turn the phone, it looks like it moves. And now they have animated album artwork on the lock screen. So if you've got music playing, you can tap on the little thing and it'll pop up and you can have animated artwork. They simplified the camera app because most people just do photo and video, and there's lots of video. You can go watch lots of videos about the people talking about the camera app. It's fine. Things pop up. It's fine. They improved the Photos app after ruining it in the last version of the operating system, because now they have tabs for libraries and collections so that you can get to all your curated stuff, but then still see basically your photo roll. Well, they don't call it that anymore. Some big improvements have been made to CarPlay, the interface. It looks nicer. Again, liquid glass. But more important, things like when you get a call, it doesn't take over the entire screen. It just pops up a little thing down at the bottom. And you can do tap backs. It'll pop up a little thing for you to do a tap backs. You can pin conversations and messages. And CarPlay adds widgets. So there's a whole lot of cool stuff in CarPlay. The new phone app has a new unified layout with your favorites across the top and then your recents all on one page. And they've added 2 new features. Call screening, where when you get a call from an unknown number, it'll answer and some computer voice. By the way, they hardly mention Siri at all in this thing. But someone like Siri will tell them, tell me why you're calling, and then that will appear on the screen, what they say, so you can decide if you want to answer it or not. So that's nice. But then they also have hold assist, which is a godsend for all these days when you're waiting for a human on hold. Well, it will recognize hold music, and it will come up and say, do you want me to handle this for you? And you say yes, and you can basically put your phone down, keep it near you, and then when someone picks up on the other end, it will tell them, oh, I'll get them, and it'll ring through, and you can then answer and say, here I am, what's the thing? So basically you put them on hold after they put you on hold. The Messages app has all sorts of improvement. They've added backgrounds, so you can have custom backgrounds for different conversations, so you can know, ever sent a text to the wrong person? Well, if you had these backgrounds, you might know that wait, that's not the person I meant. This is the wrong background. Polls in group chats. So when you're trying to settle on something, you can say, well, let's just set up a poll. Here are the choices, and then the people in the group chat can vote. Typing indicators in group chat, so you'll know if anyone's paying attention to what you just sent. And if you see a little typing indicator, oh, They were listening. Apple Cash, you can pay people in group chats. You can transfer money through Apple Cash. They're going to work that in somehow. Live translation is going to come up across all the operating systems, but it's on the iPhone, it's in Messages, FaceTime, and phone calls, and basically people talk in their language, and then it translates for you with a local LLM. So it's running on your phone. Now, you have to download the language beforehand, so you can't just anybody calling in any language. No, you're going to have to download the dictionary so it can do the translations. The demos looked amazing. The demos of Smart Siri looked amazing last year, and we're still waiting for that. The new music app adds lyrics translation, so if you're listening to songs in Spanish, you can find out what you're singing or what you're listening to. Auto mix, which does like a DJ thing. Instead of crossfade, it like tries to match the beat and the notes and everything like a DJ would. Apparently, it's pretty good at it. And music pins. When you've got a favorite artist and you're constantly having to search for them, well, you can now pin them to the top of the music app so you can always get to them right away. Maps. Apple Maps now learns your preferred route. This has bothered me forever because like I have a way I go, and Apple's always telling me, no, go this way. And then it recalculating. Well, now it will learn that, no, I always take this other road instead of the one it always recommends, and it'll start recommending the road I take. But wait, there's more. It'll recheck your routes before you leave. They add delay notifications, so there's some construction. It might take you a little longer. Go this other way. And visited places, so you can go back and say, well, what was that store I went to? Well, all your visited places will be there, and so you can go back and figure out what store you were at or what restaurant. Great little feature. Wallet on the iPhone adds driver's licenses. I think they already have this, but they got 9 states plus Puerto Rico. And they're adding a digital ID, which is kind of like your passport. You can't use it as a passport, but for like TSA and things like that, it counts as a passport. Boarding passes have been way improved in Wallet, where they not only act as boarding passes, but they have indoor mapping for the airport to help you find your gate. They have Find My to help you find your luggage, which luggage claim to go to. And shareable live flight status. So it's got your live flight status, and you can then share that with whoever's going to be picking you up at the airport or whatever. And while it also adds intelligent order tracking. So it'll keep track of your orders. It kind of does that now, but I get notifications from Wallet about my orders. Oh, visual intelligence, where you point the camera at something and then ask it what it is. Well, now it'll work on screenshots. So you can take a screenshot and then highlight the thing on the screenshot, and then visual intelligence will do its magic, like add an event to your calendar or tell you what something is. And even more, here's the slide they always put at the end with all the stuff on it that I probably didn't mention all that, but you can go check it out elsewhere. Moving on to WatchOS 26, the main thing they've added here is a workout buddy. So they have an AI, which were apparently built using actual trainers and Apple trainers, but that will give you encouragement and yell at you. I don't know how they'll work. And you can now set up custom workouts, and it will pick music for you for your workout. Or you can pick your own, obviously, but it'll pick it for you. The new wrist flick gesture. You do this, and it throws what's on the watch away, like a notification, or muting a call, or silencing a timer or an alarm, or closing the smart stack. Just do that. Nice. Plus live translation like we had in the Messages app and FaceTime and all that on the iPhone. Well, it's also going to be in the watch. Again, you'll have to set it up in advance. Oh, and the Notes app. So you can now look up your notes on the watch. And so if your phone's not handy, you got access to the Notes app. And more, here's the chart of all the other stuff and some of the stuff I mentioned. tvOS 26, well, it's mainly the redesign, the liquid glass, but you can now sing with your iPhone mic in Apple Music for karaoke and choose profiles when it wakes up so that you can say who it is, so it will show you the appropriate shows for that person in your family. Now, macOS 26 Tahoe, it still gets names. This is a big change, primarily because of the design features. But it's got that new liquid glass all over the place. It's in the widgets. The widgets have the glass and the see-through. The dock has the liquid glass. The sidebars, just everything is liquid glass, and pop-up menus in the control center. It's just fantastic. In fact, the menu bar is now transparent, so you don't have the black bar across the top. So, yeah, the notch is going to stand out more now. But you have more customization for the menu bar and for the control center. And again, with the liquid glass, you can do all sorts of cool stuff. Ooh, custom folder colors and with symbols or emojis. So you can like have a folder that's a different color and has a symbol or an emoji on it. So just by glancing at it, you'll know what's in it. And then they have even more customization. You can make everything clear. Or colorization, which you're looking at now and I also don't like. You do you. Continuity, the feature that's fantastic for moving things across and using all your devices and having them all have access to everything. Well, it adds live updates. So if you have a live update on your phone, like an Uber driver coming or Uber Eats, it'll show on your Mac on the menu bar and you can click on it and do stuff. And basically the phone app on macOS, Tahoe, basically adds all the features that are in the phone app on iOS. So it's like the exact same experience, except a little tiny thing on a screen instead of a phone. Spotlight search. Oh my goodness, it's been expanded. You can search files. You can search for apps. You can take hundreds of actions like creating an event or starting a recording or playing a podcast. You can send an email without leaving Spotlight. You can just type in, well, you're seeing it on the screen right now. And then they have a thing called Quick Keys where you can like give little short, like SM for send message, so you can minimize your typing. And they didn't show this in the keynote. It's got clipboard recall. When I did my converting from Windows to Mac video, a couple of people commented, I really missed being able to go back through my clipboard history. Well, now you can. And more. Here's the big chart at the end. They always do. VisionOS 26. This is the biggest jump. It's going from 2 to 26. But they have new experiences like widgets that are customizable. Remember to cross restart. So even if you turn the thing off and reboot, it'll still remember where they are. You've got clock, you got weather, you got music, photos, all sorts of widgets, and you put them around your room and it will remember where they are the next time you come back, even if the Vision Pro is rebooted. Spatial scenes have a new algorithm, so when it takes a 2D picture and turns it into a spatial photo, it does it even better. And this is the same stuff they're doing on the iPhone too. Oh, the new personas. Apple has an out on this. In VisionOS 1 and VisionOS 2, it said beta. Well, this is out of beta, and it looks so much better. It's way less uncanny valley. Still a little uncanny valley, but way less uncanny valley. They look like people. VisionOS 26 also adds enterprise features like shared spaces where you can have multiple people in Vision Pros all looking at the same thing with other users. So you can be pointing at things and you can have people FaceTiming in. And a big thing for enterprise is save setups. So you can have a Vision Pro for a department and it could have saved setups on their iPhones for each of the people in the department. When they get put on the Vision Pro, they just use the Vision Pro app on the phone to set their setup and their eye tracking and all that stuff, all automatic. Vision Pro 26 adds accessories like the Logitech Muse 3D drawing pencil. So you can draw in space in 3D and it looks incredibly smooth and cool. I don't need it, but I can imagine if you're a designer or something, this thing will be fantastic. Oh, and they've added Sony PSVR 2 Sense controller support. So for gaming, you can use the Sony PSVR 2 controllers, assuming they sell them separately. I don't know if they do. I'm willing to bet they're going to sell them in the Apple Store once this all comes out. And then we have new content like Apple Immersive Video, which it's been growing over time, but there's going to be more because now It supports native playback of 180 and 360 degree videos using those GoPro and Insta360 and Canon cameras that can do the 180 and 360 stuff. So instead of just looking at it in 2D, now you can be like in the middle of it. And again, here's all the more stuff, including the Jupiter environment. You could be on the moon. Now you can be on a moon of Jupiter. Yay. Now, iPadOS 26 has the most changes, and they saved it for last. They have gone all in on multitasking. There's a whole new windowing system where you grab the handle in the corner of a app and you pull it up, and all of a sudden it's now no longer full screen. Now it's a window. You can have multiple apps on the screen and drag them around. There's a real mouse pointer if you have a Magic Keyboard instead of that little blob dot that you had before. There's new macOS-like stoplight buttons on these windows, so you can minimize or close, or you can flick them to tile the windows. You can click and hold on the little stoplight for more tiling options like quarters displays. There's now a drop-down menu bar for apps. You go up to the top of the screen and here comes the menu bar. So if you're in Pages, they have the whole Pages menu bar right at the top of the screen. Not only that, this isn't just for the M4 iPads, iPad Pros. This will work on the iPad Mini. This will work. There's a whole long list. It's a lot of them. Oh, and external displays. The windowing system works great on external displays. They've made iPadOS look a lot more like macOS, but it's still an iPad. The Files app on the iPad, they've redesigned it. You now have the customizable folder icons like you do on macOS. You can now have open with, like on the Mac. You can have that on the iPad. So if you have a document, you can say what app you want to open it with, including making that the default. Folders in the dock. You can drag a folder to the dock, and then when you click on it, it'll fan out just like it does on the dock on the Mac, and it'll allow you to drag and drop from the dock into documents and stuff. For audio and video, you can now specify which microphone you want to use in what app, and you can have voice isolation. You can turn that off and on. You have this thing called local capture if you're in Teams or Zoom or one of those kind of things. It'll save your end of the conversation in high quality to your iPad so that later you can get the same copies from everybody else, assuming they were all on iPads doing local capture, and then you can piece together a really beautiful podcast where everybody's full resolution. You're not relying on your screen capture of their crappy video. You're getting their native video. Oh, it now supports background tasks like video exporting. So if you've got DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro on the iPad, now you can start an export and now go do other stuff, and the export will continue in the background, just like a real computer. And they'll show up as live activities. And then here's the and more. The developer betas are already out. They were out on Monday. The public beta will start in July. That's when I'll start getting some of this. I'm not going to do the phone or the iPad because I use those a lot. But I can use macOS Tahoe on my Mini because that's not my production system. That's an extra system. So I'll be able to get that beta. I'll definitely get visionOS 26 beta. Okay, well, that's everything they announced. Actually, that's not everything. That's everything that I wanted to mention. What's my take? What do I think of all this? The new design, the liquid glass, is amazing. I think it's gorgeous. I was a big fan back in the day of like Windows Vista, and I liked the glassy kind of interfaces, which the Mac had way back when. Aqua, I loved those. So I think the design is great. Now, you saw some of the things they showed in the keynote where you can really make it look awful. But if you do it tastefully, I think it's a good thing. And maybe you have bad taste and you want to look ugly. Feel free. I like the numbering too, going to 26 so that you know if you're running the current operating system. visionOS 2 and iPadOS 19 and 16, and you have all these numbers. Well, now they're all the same number. And it's the year. So if you get to 2027 and you're still running 26, well, you need to upgrade. The other thing I love is the iPadOS multitasking, which turns your iPad more into a Mac. It's not a Mac. It's still an iPad. And in fact, if you never grab one of those little corners and make the windows, the iPad will still work the way it's always worked. Apps will open in full screen, and you can switch apps, and you can do everything the way you've been doing it. But if you want the added complexity and fun and stuff you can do, you can drag that little thing and make them into windows and play all around, and there's all sorts of stuff you can do with the windows, but you don't have to. You're only going to have to explain it to your mom or your grandma when they accidentally have grabbed the thing, and you're going to have to tell them how to put it back to full screen, because you know how they are. The iOS home screen on the phone, I think, is gorgeous. I love the little 3D things. I like the variable things. And the macOS Spotlight clipboard history. I had commenters on my switching from Windows to Mac video saying, I wish I had that. Well, you'll have that in the fall. You'll be able to look through your clipboard history and grab things and paste them again. Fantastic feature. If you go watch that video of switching from Windows to Mac, a whole lot of things I say in there that I didn't like, well, they fixed it. So this is a great operating thing. I love that they're making them all consistent. They're all making them all visually consistent. They're making all numbers consistent. It's just a fantastic set of things. Now we'll wait and see how it turns out. Oh, and my other big take, I guess my hot take, they said the word Siri twice in the entire keynote. They don't want to talk about that. They make a little thing at the very beginning where he says, you know, we demonstrated some features and they didn't turn out quite the way we thought they were going to, so blah, 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 blah. They said in the coming year. That could mean 2025. That could mean from now until June of 2026, or that could mean 2026 later. In the coming year is a long time. They get like a year and a half, and they can still say they came in the coming year. So don't be looking for the smart Siri just yet. But they are working on it. It's going to happen someday. By the way, they sprinkled all sorts of Apple Intelligence features all through, or a whole lot of the features I ran through are enabled by Apple Intelligence. They just kind of played that down, although they said it a few times. The word Apple Intelligence came up a lot. Siri, not so much. Well, that's my take on WWDC 2025. Heck of a lot more fun than Developers Conference 1987. By the way, you know, it wasn't worldwide back then. It was just the Developers Conference. I think we have a lot to look forward to. I'm looking forward to the betas in July. Like I said, I'll be getting for sure the Vision OS and the Tahoe, maybe the iPad. I might even do the phone. It looks so much better. I want it now, but I don't want to have bugs and things. I saw someone who has the developer beta and they said, well, it's only restarted twice this morning. Yeah, I don't want that on my phone. But when they get to the public beta, it'll be a lot more stable and there'll be videos. There's always going to be videos. I need content. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time. Bye-bye. Now I got to go figure out what I'm going to do next week. It just never ends. Thanks for staying to the end. Bye-bye.